Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. You've felt it, perhaps. A persistent whisper at the edge of hearing. A cold spot in a familiar room. The uncanny sense of being utterly alone, and yet utterly observed. These are the places where the air feels thick with memory, not your own. Today, we visit such a place, a remote property claimed by decay and silence, a patch of land that breathes with an ancient, heavy secret. It calls to you, drawing you down a long, neglected road towards a structure that barely stands against the weather. This is where the veil thins, where the forgotten stirs. You arrive, you step out, and the world shifts. The story begins with earth, damp and demanding, and a smell that burrows deep into the mind. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. Section 1. The car sighs to a halt on the rutted track, the engine's final gasp swallowed by an immense, oppressive silence. You step out, the gravel crunching under your boots, a sound shockingly loud in the dead air. The house looms ahead, a skeletal frame of faded timber and broken windows, draped in climbing weeds like a shroud. It smells of damp wood and decay, the familiar scent of abandonment, but beneath it, a different smell pulses, something metallic, earthy, like old blood mixed with turned soil. It's not the house that holds your attention, though. It's the land. The ground feels wrong beneath your feet, solid, yet yielding, as if holding its breath. There are no birds singing here, no insects buzzing, only the low guttural sigh of wind through the few remaining skeletal trees, and the distant, unsettling cries of unseen things far off, beyond the property line. This quiet unease is your first major psychological break, a moment where the rational mind stumbles over something deeply, fundamentally out of place. You wander the grounds, drawn by an inexplicable pull, a curiosity that feels less like your own volition and more like a thread tugging your chest forward. And then you see it. Set into a slight rise near the back of the property, half hidden by overgrown scrub, is a heavy, reinforced cellar door. It's old, forged from thick iron plates bolted together, the metal dull and rust-stained, seemingly sunk deep into the earth. A faint, metallic, earthy smell hangs particularly thick here, stronger than anywhere else. You reach out a hand, not to touch the door yet, but to feel the air near it. It feels colder, denser, and you could almost swear you feel a faint vibration, a low thrumming deep underground, more felt than heard. This spot holds your attention so strongly, a curious, unsettling fascination washing over the confusion. Why here? Why this? The seals around the door are excessively strong, thick bands of metal, wrapped and bolted repeatedly, looking less like a way to keep weather out and more like a deliberate, desperate effort to keep something in. The heavy, damp earth pressing against the sides of the rise feels like another layer of containment, a deliberate burial. The metallic, earthy smell feels like its breath. This heavy earth, the oppressive silence, the unsettling smell, they are the land's language, whispering of a burden it has carried for too long. The silence, usually a comfort, feels watchful now, waiting. Section 2. The low hum deep underground persists, a subtle vibration felt through the soles of your boots as you stand near the sealed door. It's not a mechanical sound, not an engine or a pump. It feels organic, a low thrumming like a monstrous heart, or the grinding of immense subterranean stone. This is the central uncanny event. The earth itself seems to live and pulse beneath this spot. The metallic, earthy smell has now settled in the back of your throat, a persistent tang that no amount of swallowing can clear. It's a vivid atmospheric detail, making the air feel thick and foul. You kneel, running your hand over the cold, unyielding surface of the reinforced door. The metal is pitted and rough, the bolts enormous and deeply set. This sheer physical resistance, the obvious effort put into securing this entryway, fuels a growing obsession. Why would anyone go to such lengths? What could possibly be down there that required such a formidable seal? The quiet unease of arrival has fractured into a consuming need to know, a dangerous curiosity that overrides caution. Doubt flickers briefly. This is insane, walking alone into the unknown, pulled by nothing but a smell and a vibration. But the pull is too strong. It feels less like exploring a mystery and more like fulfilling a dark obligation you didn't know you had. The motif of the heavy earth and the pervasive smell deepens here. The earth isn't just dirt. It feels like a conscious weight, pressing down, holding fast. The smell isn't just decay. It's the odor of something ancient and captive, straining against its bonds. As you trace the outline of the seals, a new motif emerges, tied to the sound. A faint, high-pitched static seems to overlay the low hum, barely audible, like a distant radio searching for a signal in a storm. It flickers in and out, tied somehow to the vibration. You press your ear against the cold metal, straining to hear past the hum and the static. For a second, you think you hear something else, a faint scratching sound from deep within, a rhythmic whisper against stone. Or was it just the static resolving into something else? The ambiguity hangs in the air. Was the sound coming from within, or echoing from somewhere much farther away, trapped and funneled by the earth? You can't be sure, but the need to open the door, to release or confront whatever is making the sounds, grows with each passing second, solidifying the psychological fracture into a driving, reckless impulse. The silence that answered before now seems filled with this low, demanding noise. Section 3. Days pass, or perhaps only hours. Time loses its familiar anchor near the reinforced door. The metallic, earthy smell is no longer just in your throat. It seems to permeate your clothes, your skin, clinging stubbornly. The low hum from underground is a constant presence now, a part of the silence. And the faint static crackles more frequently, sharper at the edges. The central uncanny event of the pulsing earth feels more intense. The vibrations, sometimes strong enough to make the sparse leaves on nearby bushes tremble slightly. You work on the seals, not with sophisticated tools, but with whatever you find. Rusted spades abandoned near the house, loose stones, your bare hands scraping at the packed earth around the edges. The physical effort is immense, a grueling struggle against the sheer weight of the earth and the resilience of the ancient metal. This struggle is a mirror for the psychological one, the battle against doubt, against fear, against the growing certainty that this is a terrible mistake. The psychological fracture deepens into a state of near-sleepless obsession. Thoughts outside of the door and what lies beneath it are increasingly difficult to hold on to. The feeling of being watched has solidified into a conviction. You feel eyes upon you from the dark gaps between the trees, from the windows of the derelict house, and most pressingly, from below. The atmospheric detail is the feel of the heavy metal under your hands, cold, unyielding, radiating a chill that has nothing to do with the air temperature. It seems to absorb warmth, not just from your skin, but from the light, from the very concept of day. The smell sometimes shifts, adding a note of decay, not of wood or flesh, but something else, something fungal and deep. The motif of the earth, the smell, the sound, hum, static, and the seals continue their relentless press. The static sometimes forms patterns, brief bursts that seem to convey information you can't decipher, like frantic, alien speech. You notice something else. The earth immediately around the door seems darker, wetter than the surrounding soil, almost slick. It looks like it's weeping. You try levering one of the immense bolts with a thick branch. It strains, groans, but doesn't budge. Yet as you apply pressure, the hum beneath intensifies, and the static shrieks for a second. It feels like the door is alive, or whatever is behind it is reacting to your efforts. This interaction, the apparent response from the hidden thing, is the uncanny event escalating. You weren't just trying to open it. You were trying to remember why you needed to, as if a vital piece of your own history lay locked beneath the heavy earth. The effort leaves you exhausted, trembling, but the drive to continue is unbreakable. Section 4. The boundary between conscious thought and obsession blurs. The metallic, earthy smell is now so ingrained that you barely notice it, except when a subtle shift in the underground activity makes it pulse, briefly stronger, fouler. The low hum is a background note to your existence, and the static is a constant, low-level thrumming in your ears, sometimes resolving into faint, distorted whispers you can't quite catch. The central uncanny event is the increasing physicality of the hidden presence. It's not just vibrations anymore. The air around the door feels charged, heavy, making your hair stand on end. You have managed to loosen one of the bolts, a minor victory won through sheer, desperate effort. It hangs precariously in its socket, scarred and bent. As it shifted, a sliver of deeper darkness became visible beneath the edge of the door, an absolute void that seems to drink the light. From this gap, the smell is overwhelming, a potent cocktail of metal, damp earth, and something profoundly rotten, something ancient and non-biological. This noxious wave is a vivid atmospheric detail that makes your stomach clench. The psychological fracture is now complete. Sleep is impossible, filled with fragmented, disturbing dreams of being buried alive, of heavy weight, of sounds from below. You find yourself talking aloud to the door, pleading with it, demanding answers. A profound sense of dread has settled in your bones, a certainty that opening this door is the worst thing you could possibly do. Yet the compulsion to do so is now irresistible. You feel a terrible, cold guilt, though you cannot name its source. It feels like you are facilitating something awful. The motif of the earth, the smell, the sound, and the seals culminates at this point. The earth feels like a living skin trying to hold itself closed. The smell is its breath, toxic and inviting. The sound is its voice, or the voice of what it contains, a frantic, desperate chorus beneath the static. The seals are its desperate attempts to keep its mouth shut. As you stare into the sliver of darkness revealed by the loosened bolt. You have a sudden, clear yet impossible thought. It isn't just the door keeping things out, it's keeping things in. And perhaps you are the one chosen, or perhaps compelled, to let it out. The darkness feels less like absence and more like a palpable pressure pushing back, waiting for enough space. The silence now feels taut, strained, ready to snap. Section 5. The moment of truth arrives with a sickening groan of stressed metal. You have worked the loosened bolt free, and with immense effort, managed to pry the edge of the reinforced door up just enough to see into the darkness below. It's not a basement, it's a shaft, dropping straight down into absolute blackness. The central uncanny event is the overwhelming sensory assault from the opening. The metallic, earthy, rotten smell billows out, so thick it feels like a physical force, making you gag. The hum is deafening now, vibrating through your entire body, and the static shrieks resolving into what sounds like 1,000 overlapping, frantic whispers. Words you can't understand, but whose tone is one of desperate, ancient need or terror. The vivid atmospheric detail is the feel of the air rushing out of the shaft, cold, damp, carrying the unbearable smell and the punishing sound. It feels like standing at the mouth of a sleeping, monstrous lung. The darkness is not just an absence of light, it's a viscous, almost tangible substance. The psychological fracture is total. Your mind reels from the sensory overload and the sheer horror of the abyss revealed. Fear is a cold, shaking thing in your gut, but it's mixed with a terrifying sense of inevitability, even belonging. You feel a profound disorientation, a loss of self. Are these whispers meant for you? Do they know you? Or are they part of you now? Your own thoughts feel alien, overlaid by the shriek of the static and the deep hum. The motif of the earth, the smell, the sound, and the threshold is paramount. The earth is the body, the door is the mouth, the smell is the breath, the sound is the voice or the struggle within. The opened crack is the threshold, the point of no return. As you lean closer, drawn by a pull stronger than gravity itself, you feel a chilling certainty settle over you. Whatever looked back from that absolute darkness didn't have eyes in any way you understand. It was a perception, a recognition, a hungry void reaching out. The silence is gone, replaced by the roar from below. Section 6. The cellar door is shut again, heavy and silent, the loosened bolt somehow back in place, though not fully secured. Or perhaps you didn't open it at all. The memory is fractured, overlaid with the smell and the sound that are now permanent residents in your senses. You are away from the property, back on the road, but the heavy earth, the metallic rot, the low hum, and the frantic static cling to you like a second skin. The aftermath is not a return to normal, but a carrying away of the site's essence. The psychological residue is profound and pervasive. You see the darkness behind your eyelids, taste the smell on your tongue, hear the hum in the quietest rooms. Sleep brings only fragmented visions, the press of heavy earth, the sound of straining metal, a wordless need rising from the dark. The unanswered questions are countless. What was beneath the earth? Why was it sealed? Why were you drawn there? What did you do or almost do? Did you let something out? Even just a whisper of its influence? Or did it simply touch you, marking you as its own? The motifs follow you. The smell of damp earth is everywhere now, even in the cleanest air. The static is a constant companion, a low buzzing under the threshold of hearing that sometimes coalesces into those indecipherable whispers. The feeling of heavy pressure, like the weight of the earth, sometimes settles on your chest, making it hard to breathe. The seals of the door are etched onto your mind, a symbol of a fragile barrier between worlds, a barrier you somehow compromised. You are marked by the waiting earth. It doesn't scream or chase. It simply is, and now, so are you, somehow connected to its burden. The horror wasn't in seeing a monster, but in glimpsing the possibility of an ancient, patient entity, and the unsettling realization that its prison was always meant to be temporary, its release perhaps inevitable. You drove away, yes, but the silence you left behind at the property is now inside you, filled with the sound from below. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet. Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. This old house, settled deep in the forgotten woods, carries its secrets close. It breathes with a slow, heavy rhythm you feel in your bones, not your ears. Dust motes hang still in the infrequent sunlight, caught in the history of rooms that refuse to yield their past. You found it unexpected, a place undisturbed by time, save for the dust and the stillness. But beneath the quiet, there was a hum, a low vibration that seemed to emanate from the very foundations, from the earth itself. It drew your eye to the cellar, to the corner where the stone floor met a section of unnaturally smooth, reinforced concrete, clearly much newer than the ancient walls, sealed with what looked like industrial-grade sealant, devoid of handles or seams. A door, but not one meant to be opened. A lock without a keyhole. It felt like a breath was held, just beyond that barrier. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. Your initial unease settles like the dust, replaced by a gnawing curiosity that pulls you back to the sealed opening. It sits in the corner of the cellar, a gray scar on the ancient stone floor. Despite the instinct that whispers caution, you find yourself drawn here, lingering, kneeling beside the smooth, impenetrable surface. Hours bleed together. You trace the outline of the seal with a fingertip, feeling the slight roughness where the sealant meets the stone. It feels wrong, cold in a way that stone shouldn't feel, dead. As you wait, quiet and still, a house seems to fade around you, and another layer of sound emerges. Faint scraping, first dismissed as mice in the walls, but it is too rhythmic, too deliberate. Soft murmurs follow, like hushed voices just beyond understanding, words caught on a distant current of air. Then, deeper, more unsettling, come the thuds, resonant impacts from far below the surface, vibrations that travel through the concrete and into the bone, pressing against it. These sounds are phantom-like, always just on the edge of hearing, easily rationalized away as the house settling, the old pipes groaning, or the wind sighing through unseen cracks. Yet they persist, returning the moment silence threatens to reclaim the space. The metallic, earthy smell you first noticed near the opening grows stronger now, more distinct than simple damp soil and rust. It is sometimes accompanied by a cloying sweetness, thick and sickly like rotting flowers or fermented fruit left too long in darkness. Other times, it shifts, carrying a scent like old stale water that has stood stagnant for centuries. You try to rationalize it all. The sounds are house noise, the smells are cellar damp, and maybe some old forgotten rot in the walls. But the sheer persistence, the way they seem to emanate specifically from the concrete barrier, defies simple explanation. The struggle between your desperate need for logic and the undeniable sensory input becomes a grinding friction in your mind, fueling a cold, sharp anxiety that settles in your chest. The lock without a keyhole now feels less like a mystery and more like a deliberate trap, a place sealed for a reason you are starting to fear. The scents and sounds from the depths become constants, markers of a presence stirring beneath your feet. You find yourself staring intently at the old stone and concrete covering the opening, noticing odd, faint patterns or symbols etched into the surface, barely visible under the accumulated grime. They weren't there before, or perhaps you simply hadn't seen them. They look like meaningless scratches, yet they seem to mirror the intricate, useless patterns of a forgotten key lying on an old, dusty surface. The faint patterns etched into the seal are no longer just grime-obscured scratches. As you spend more time near the concrete slab, drawn by the persistent whispers and the cloying air, the symbols seem to gain definition, almost vibrating with a low, internal energy. They are complex, like diagrams of something ancient and mechanical, or perhaps the intricate branching structures of root systems seen under a microscope. You trace them with a finger, the concrete cool and unyielding beneath your touch. The resonant thuds from below grow more frequent, rhythmic now, like a slow, heavy pulse. Sometimes they feel like impacts, sometimes like sighs of immense weight shifting deep beneath the earth. The whispers are clearer too, a low, sibilant current that seems to flow through the concrete itself. They aren't words you understand, but the tone is unsettling. A constant, murmuring presence that hints at thought, at consciousness, just out of reach. The air near the seal takes on a tangible quality, thick with the metallic earth smell and the sickening sweetness. It feels heavy, pressing against the skin. You find yourself losing track of time here, hours dissolving into minutes, minutes stretching into an eternity spent listening, watching the symbols. Sleep is a distant memory, replaced by a jittery exhaustion that sharpens the senses while dulling the mind. Rationalization has failed. The sounds and smells are too specific, too persistent to be mere house noises. This is something else. The certainty of it slams into you, a cold wave of dread that leaves you trembling. You feel a growing, irrational need to understand the symbols, to interpret this strange language etched into the barrier. They twist and turn like the teeth of an impossible key, hinting at a lock you were never meant to find. What do they mean? What are they for? The silence answers only with the persistent, rhythmic thudding. The symbols on the seal seem to deepen, the lines becoming starker, almost glowing faintly in the dim cellar light. You are certain they are changing, shifting, growing more complex. The rhythmic thuds below accelerate, a frantic heartbeat echoing through the stone and concrete. They are louder now, punctuated by sounds like tearing earth or grinding stone. The whispering has intensified into a low, constant drone, punctuated by sharp, guttural sounds that might be efforts at communication, or perhaps sounds of exertion. The cloying sweetness in the air is overwhelming, sickeningly potent, mixed now with a new scent, sharp, coppery like fresh blood. It's in your throat, on your tongue. You feel a primal urge to retreat, to flee this house, but your feet are rooted to the spot. An invisible force seems to hold you captive, forcing you to witness the escalating assault on your senses. You see movement out of the corner of your eye, shadows shifting near the seal, darker than the cellar gloom should allow. They writhe and stretch, reaching towards the etched symbols. Fear coils tight in your gut, a cold, suffocating presence. Your mind fractures under the strain, reality blurring at the edges. Are the shadows real? Or are they projections of your own terror? The symbols on the seal seem to pulse, mirroring the frantic thuds below. They feel like they are almost ready to unlock, to reveal their secrets, or worse, to activate. The lock, it seems, is not just a barrier, but a mechanism of control, perhaps even a trigger. You feel a terrifying certainty that the sounds and smells are not coming from something trying to get out, but from something stirring awake. Something that sees the sealed opening not as a prison, but as a pathway. And you, standing here, feel like the final, necessary key. Something wants to turn. The immediate assault on the senses subsides, leaving behind a profound, echoing silence. The rhythmic thuds from below are gone. The whispers have ceased. The air, thick moments ago with metallic earth and sickly sweetness, is now merely cold and damp, smelling only of old stone and dust. You stand trembling in the cellar, the silence a heavy blanket after the cacophony. It feels less like a return to normalcy and more like a pause, a holding of breath. Your body is exhausted, drained of energy, but your mind races, replaying the sounds, the smells, the horrifying certainty that pulsed from the concrete. The symbols etched into the seal are still there, visible under the grime, but they no longer seem to glow or shift. They are just lines on concrete again, inert and baffling. Was it real? The sounds, the smells, the feeling of something stirring? Or was it just the house, the isolation, the strain of sleepless nights, and a mind working overtime? The rational part of you, battered but not entirely broken, clings to this possibility, however thin. But the memory is vivid, sharp, the coppery smell, the feeling of intent from the depths, the symbols like components of a key. The sealed opening remains, a gray enigma in the corner of the cellar, the silent, terrifying heart of the house. It is still a lock without a keyhole, but now it feels less like something keeping things in and more like something waiting to be completed, to be opened from the other side. The question hangs heavy in the air, unspoken. What was those sounds? What is that smell? What lies dormant beneath the earth, behind the barrier? You look at the symbols on the concrete, the intricate, meaningless pattern that felt moments ago like a promise or a threat. A key to something you don't understand. The house is quiet now, but the quiet feels different, watchful. It feels like it is listening, waiting for the sounds to return. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet. You dive into the town's small historical society, the air thick with the scent of aging paper, and a faint, unsettling dampness that seems to cling to everything, even indoors. Online databases are no better, spitting back fragmented deeds and tax records that skip vital decades. The property's history feels less like a forgotten story and more like a deliberately erased one. You search for mentions of the sealed place, for blueprints, for any record of modifications that might explain the heavy, locked door, but find nothing conclusive. The word keys keeps appearing in your searches. Mentions of original owners, but never details about specific locks or layouts. It's like searching for a specific key in a box full of broken teeth. Local gossip proves richer, though contradictory and steeped in a weary fatalism. The postmistress mutters about bad ground. The man at the hardware store just shakes his head when you mention the address. Tales surface of vanished tenants, of strange accidents, of an impervasive sense of misfortune clinging to the land itself. They speak of families who left abruptly, leaving belongings behind, and a pervasive sense of dread that seemed to grow like mildew on the foundation. The descriptions are vague, steeped in superstition and folklore, offering no concrete answers about what happened, only that it did. It confirms your unease, but provides no path forward, leaving you circling the same unanswered questions. The first flicker of real disorientation begins subtly. You pore over notes, cross-referencing dates from vague news clippings and local anecdotes. Was that story about the fire in the winter of '88 or '90? You distinctly remember reading '88 this morning, but now the document in your hand seems to imply '90. Or perhaps it doesn't mention a year at all, the detail blurring like ink running on damp paper. Then comes the unsettling realization about the sounds. The rhythmic dripping you hear now, the faint scratching behind a wall. You recall noticing them yesterday, but a cold wave washes over you. Hadn't you heard them the day before that, too? And the day before that? Your memory feels like wet sand, the footprints of recent events washing away, leaving only older, fainter impressions that might not even be real. You stare at your research notes, the paper feeling strangely cold and slick under your fingertips, as if the pervasive dampness of the house is seeping into your own perception of time and reality. Doubt, sharp and cold, begins to pierce through the focused hunt for answers. Did I really hear that yesterday? Or is my mind playing tricks? How long has this feeling of wrongness been growing? The inability to trust your own recall, to place events in a firm timeline, is the start of the break. The world outside feels solid, but the world inside your head is starting to warp, edges blurring, details fading. A single resonant phrase floats unbidden into your thoughts, pulled from some forgotten corner of memory. Utterly unconnected to the research, yet carrying the weight of immense dread. Don't look behind the keys. It makes no sense. Keys to what? What is behind them? Yet the words resonate with a profound, sickening certainty, a chilling echo in the newly hollow spaces of your mind. The dampness isn't just outside anymore. It feels like it's inside, clouding thought, decaying memory. An undeniable compulsion takes hold. You feel it bloom in your chest, a dark flower unfolding petal by petal, each one weighted with an irresistible gravity that pulls you toward the sealed opening. Rational thought is secondary now, a faint, receding whisper against the roaring tide of need. The need to understand, to see, to feel what lies waiting below. Your hands, seemingly of their own accord, reach out, tracing the cold, hard lines of the seal. It is stone, thick and heavy, perhaps mortared in place ages ago. You begin the difficult physical task, fingers seeking purchase in cracks, nails scraping against rough surfaces. It is a strain, muscles burning, breath coming in ragged gasps. There is no lever, no obvious handle, just solid, unyielding resistance. As you pry and scrape near the base, your fingers snag on something loose within a narrow gap. You pull, and a small, brittle object comes free. It is a section of paper, water-damaged and crumbling, clearly torn from a journal. The faded ink reveals hurried, spidery script, fragments detailing a past resident's obsession with this very spot, their descent into a madness born of trying to understand the same pull, the same sounds. The earth breathes, one line is still legible, and its breath is not air. This broken page, clutched in your hand, feels ancient, a mirror reflecting a fate already embraced. The sounds from below are louder now, more distinct than the faint whispers before. They are not human words, not language you recognize, but complex, chittering or grinding noises that do not just strike your eardrums. They resonate in your bones, vibrating through your very skeleton. It is the sound of things moving in impossible ways, or perhaps things being reshaped by immense unseen forces. Your psychological state shifts subtly, unsettlingly. The sharp edge of paranoia dulls, replaced by a disturbing sense of disassociation. You are still prying at the seal, still breathing the suddenly colder, damper air that seems to well up from the stone. But it feels as though you are observing your own actions from a distance. Your hands move with a focused intensity you don't consciously direct. Your eyes fixated on the seal with an intensity you don't feel. It is as if you are a puppet, driven by an external force, one that whispers not in your ear, but in the marrow of your bones, urging you forward, intensifying the sensory input from below until the chittering feels like it's happening inside you. The paranormal element is undeniable now, a direct, manipulative influence guiding your actions, heightening the cold, the damp, the terrible sound. The motif of the deep earth is no longer external. It feels as though it is pressing in on you, filling your lungs with that cold, damp air until breathing is less about oxygen and more about inhaling the presence of what lies beneath. As you strain against the stone, focused entirely on the seal, a flicker catches your eye. Movement in the shadows around you, just at the edge of your vision, gone before you can truly turn your head. Are they watching, or simply waiting for the seal to break? Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. This house, nestled deep in the woods where the road gives up, feels like one of those places. Dust sleeps in thick blankets on every surface, and the air itself seems ancient, holding its breath. There's a chill here that has nothing to do with the weather outside. It sinks into your bones, whispering of things that shouldn't be disturbed. You came looking for answers, or perhaps just a quiet place to hide. But the silence here is loud, filled with the weight of forgotten time. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe and share your theories below. Now let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The old house creaks around you, a living thing settling into discomfort. Sunlight, thick with dust motes dancing like tiny ghosts, filters through grimy windows, illuminating the decay. A persistent low thrumming seems to rise from somewhere below your feet, a sound too regular, too intentional to be the house settling or the wind. It feels like a heartbeat, slow and heavy, pulling at your attention like a physical cord. You move towards the source, drawn by an invisible current. The air grows colder near the threshold, leading to the cellar stairs, carrying a faint, unpleasant odor, something like damp earth and stagnant water, but overlaid with a strange, metallic tang. On the wall near the stairs, a framed mirror hangs crookedly. Your reflection stares back, eyes wide, a stranger's fear reflected in them. It's just your face, of course, but the angle, the dim light, makes it seem subtly wrong. A mask you haven't worn before. A ripple passes over the glass, not from movement, but as if the surface itself has shivered. This place isn't just old, it's listening, and it's beginning to pull you apart from yourself, making you question the image looking back. What does the mirror see that you cannot? A deep unease pools in your gut, a chilling premonition that the descent you are about to make is not one you can easily climb back from. Tss. Down the steps you go, each one groaning under your weight, like a sigh of protest from the house. The thrumming grows louder now, a physical vibration felt in your chest. The smell intensifies, thick and cloying, clinging to the back of your throat. The air is heavy, damp, and utterly devoid of warmth. At the foot of the stairs, the cellar stretches out, a cavern of shadows and forgotten things. Cobwebs hang like dusty curtains, and the floor is cold, packed earth. Your breath mists in the frigid air. There, in the deepest shadow, where the cellar floor dips slightly, is a small dark puddle of standing water. It's unnaturally still. As you approach, the thrumming seems to emanate directly from beneath it. You peer into the black water, expecting to see the rough cellar ceiling reflected, maybe your own face. Instead, the surface is utterly opaque, like a sheet of polished obsidian absorbing all light. Yet, within its depthless surface, you see a fleeting movement, a slow, deliberate shift beneath the darkness that shouldn't be possible. It's a mirror reflecting something not present, something else. A wave of vertigo washes over you, a sudden disorienting fear that is so profound it makes you stumble back. You feel an irrational certainty that this water is deeper than the cellar itself, a point of connection to something vast and unknown below. This isn't just a cellar, it's an opening, and the darkness within that puddle is watching. The compulsion to touch the water in the puddle becomes overwhelming, an urge that overrides the fear still prickling your skin. Your fingers tremble as you reach out, drawn by the invisible force that now feels like tendrils wrapping around your mind. As your fingertip breaks the surface, the cold is immediate and absolute, a shock that goes deeper than bone. The thrumming beneath the earth seems to amplify, a low growl now, accompanied by faint, rhythmic pulsing sounds, like something vast and alive, breathing far below. Visual distortions ripple at the edge of your vision. Shadows deepen unnaturally. Corners of the cellar seem to stretch and waver. You glance back towards the stairs, seeking the comfort of the familiar. And in the dim light spilling down, the banister seems to writhe for a moment, like polished wood briefly turning to muscle. The air grows heavy, thick with an unseen pressure. Your thoughts begin to scatter, like frightened birds. It becomes difficult to hold on to a single idea. Your own name feels distant, belonging to someone else. The puddle's surface, disturbed by your touch, swirls sluggishly, and for a heartbeat, you see not the opaque blackness, but an impossible depth, and something ancient and slow stirring within. It seems the deeper you descend, the less of yourself you can bring with you. The floor beneath your feet feels less like packed earth and more like living tissue, responding subtly to the rhythmic pulsing that now fills the air. It's a sound that vibrates not just in your ears, but in your very core, synchronizing with the frantic beat of your own heart. The overwhelming smell of damp earth and decay is now mingled with something else, something sharp and metallic, like blood or rust. You are no longer just in the cellar. You feel as though you are becoming part of it. The cold, damp heaviness seeping into your limbs, anchoring you to the deep. Whispers seem to slither through the air, too low to discern words, but carrying a distinct impression of immense age and patience. As you look around, the walls of the cellar seem to press inward, the stone and earth shifting almost imperceptibly, closing in. In a small rocky crevice near the puddle, a shard of mica gleams, catching a stray beam of light. Your reflection in its fractured surface isn't right. It's elongated, stretched, the features blurring and flattening as if viewed under unimaginable pressure. This vision isn't just an optical illusion. It feels like a preview, a chilling glimpse of a transformation already underway. Your sense of self is fracturing, pieces of your identity flaking away like old paint, replaced by an alien awareness that seems to rise from the depths, cold and utterly indifferent. You are losing the anchors that hold you together. And you have opened it, or perhaps the seal has given way on its own. The smell is overwhelming now, thick and nauseating, a raw, primal stench that scrapes against your senses. The sounds are a cacophony, the low thrumming joined by a chorus of wet, sucking noises, and the guttural pulses, a pulsating rhythm that seems to synchronize with your heartbeat. Or perhaps you realize with dawning horror, your heartbeat is synchronizing with it. You find yourself drawn into the opening beneath the puddle, compelled to descend further into the absolute blackness. The boundaries between your thoughts and the sensations emanating from below begin to blur, dissolve. You feel cold, damp, and heavy. Not as if you are becoming part of the earth itself, but that you are. Memories surface, not your own, but ancient, disturbing impressions of crushing pressure, absolute darkness, and immense, non-human awareness that spans eons. Your major psychological break is here, the shattering loss of self, as your consciousness fragments or begins to merge with the entity or force residing below. The paranormal element is now consuming, attempting to absorb or transform you completely. The motif of the deep earth and dampness is no longer just external. It is becoming your new reality, changing your physical state from the inside out, your mind changing to match. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a puddle of standing water nearby, but the face you see is wrong. Ancient, inhuman, distorted by pressure. The eyes vast and unblinking, holding a depth of time that swallows your brief existence. It is not you looking back. Vix sits. The descent has ended, but a slow dissolution into the cold, wet silence that reigns below the world of light. The pulsating rhythm has faded, replaced by the quiet, constant pressure that now feels like a second skin. Your thoughts are no longer your own, not entirely. They are echoes, fragments of the ancient awareness that has merged with what was once you. There is no fear now, only a deep, unsettling calm. The overwhelming smell has become your atmosphere, the dampness, your very substance. You are here and nowhere, belonging to the vast, silent dark. What remains of your consciousness drifts, observing the lingering echoes of the individual you were. The questions that drove you, the fear that propelled you, they are just distant whispers now. You are changed, utterly. The concept of reflection holds a different meaning. It is no longer about seeing an image of yourself, but about the slow, internal mirroring of the ancient consciousness you now share. There are no more puddles, no shards of mica here to catch a stray light. The surface that could show you yourself is gone, perhaps because the self capable of being reflected is no longer distinct. The silence holds secrets you now partially understand, secrets of patience and time measured in geological shifts. You are a part of the weight now, and if you hear it again tonight, don't answer, not yet. The sounds, the shifting, the impossible breathing, they stop. Not a sudden snapping halt, but a slow, reluctant fade, like a tide pulling back across cold mud. Only the silence remains now, vast and deep, heavier than any noise could ever be. It settles, not just around you, but within you, filling the hollow spaces where panic used to reside. You are down there, or perhaps you are back, but fundamentally changed in ways the old skin could never understand. The sounds have ceased, or perhaps you are now part of them, a low, resonant thrum beneath the world's notice. The house, you think, still stands above, a silhouette against a sky you can no longer see. Or maybe it collapsed, its timbers giving way to the void, joining the slow, inevitable descent into the opening. It doesn't matter. Its state is irrelevant now. The final state is ambiguous. Are you trapped or transformed? Or has the horror simply finished its work and retreated, waiting? The damp, metallic earth smell is everywhere now, a constant signature. It's not just on your clothes or in the air. It is inside you, a cold taste on the back of the tongue, a heavy presence behind the eyes. Your memories are a jumbled mess, shards of sunlight and forgotten names mixed with the immense, cold history of the place, with the slow, indifferent thoughts of the non-human entity that consumed you. The lock on the door, the reflection in the glass, the faint scent of something sour and old, they are all just noise now, echoes in a cavern of silence. There is no resolution, only this new, unsettling state of being or non-being. Your final psychological state is not madness or despair, but a profound, irreversible transformation, a dissolution of identity so complete it is less like dying and more like becoming the soil itself. The paranormal element was not an attack to be survived, but an assimilation, a final, inescapable entrapment. The damp earth is the lasting signature, a constant reminder of what is down there and what you have become, or what remains of you. The story ends not with a bang, but a chilling silence that lingers, suggesting the cycle is complete, for now, or that the horror has simply found its newest permanent inhabitant. You are the silence now. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.